Welcome back to American Warrior Radio here on AM 1060 WMEL and online worldwide. All you listeners from Korea to Afghanistan, thanks for tuning in today. 1060WMEL.com. You know I asked you at the first segment to grab a pen and paper. Please take a moment and share that information with your friends wherever they live, because we are worldwide, everybody. But for all of our Space Coast listeners here, thanks again. I want to plug you in one last time to get tickets for the Patriot Day brunch coming up in just 2 weeks and a day on Sunday, September 11th. That's the 9/11 Patriot Day. Never forget. We're celebrating 15 years of being safe from any horrific terrorist attack, at least the large scale that we had on 9/11, Glenn.
Yeah, and folks, this is going to be at the Cocoa Beach Country Club, and if you're a golfer, go ahead and bring your clubs, and you can maybe get a spot to golf afterwards.
Get your tea time after brunch, for sure.
Yeah, and if you're an eater, it's all you can eat. It's from 10 to 1. Tickets for adults are $20. 13 to 17 years old is $10. 5 to 12 is $5, and if you're 4 or under, it's free.
Okay, we love that. But folks, we need your support, because AVET Project's one of our premier programs, PR&R, which Dr. Fairchild, who's coming up here in a moment with his Heal the Warrior, Heal the Country segment, he's our lead mental health facilitator, as well as owns and operates Baytree Behavioral Health. I got to tell you, it's so important to get this information out there. I want everybody to show up, because this, whatever monies we create from this are being directed to our PR&R retreats, which I've already mentioned, Project Recuperation and Reintegration Retreats for returning combat vets. And we've got another one slated for mid-ish October. And we need the money to help us help them. That's living life beyond the bumper sticker of I support the troops. Get involved, not only through coming out to the Patriot Day brunch. Sponsor a military family. It's only $70. If you are a business or you're an individual that really has a heart to serve, a table still available, $300. That's for 10 people to come and enjoy the brunch. So please, we've got wonderful sponsors, but we need more. All the funding, all the proceeds. You know, when you talk about charities, and I know there's a lot of talk out there about some not being as above board as others, but AVET Project, we are all unpaid volunteers. Nobody gets a paycheck. If you're doing anything with AVET Project, you're doing it because you love the country and you love our troops and you love your freedom and you want to preserve those ideals. Well, help us help them and get involved. Go to avetproject.org, click on the donate button, all right? We don't get many clicks.
Yeah, well, let me tell you, in the 22 plus years that I was the manager of the Brevard County Veteran Services team, I got involved intimately with requests. Is this a good organization to support and send money to and what have you? And most of the time the answer was no. In fact, most of the time I said, give to an organization that you can reach out and touch. They're in your local area. You know that they're helping local people first. And AVET is that organization. I want to repeat to you, nobody gets paid in that organization. You're not like some of these other national organizations, and it's gross amounts of money that the officers get in the hundreds of thousands of dollars in payment. So
we need your help, folks, and it's easy to do that and enjoy a delicious brunch.
And
save the date.
Yeah, lots of other activities going on too, and the only way you're going to find out is come.
That's exactly right. avetproject.org. Click on the Facebook icon on the left margin. Quick shout out to Stu Smith with Citrus Solution. He's my chairman of the Military Affairs Council. This afternoon, they're conducting the big bowling. It's Partners and Patriots bowling tournament. Wish him a lot of luck there. Stu's a great man, and his company, Citrus Solution, is a table sponsor at the event, along with Brian from SCIS. We mentioned memory care here, Market Street Memory Care, wonderful folks. Dr. Fairchild and Baytree Behavioral Health are sponsors. And of course, our mothership here, WMEL, is the media sponsor, and you'll be hearing the ads come out. Just save the date, okay? Grab your calendar, your phone, however you do it. Save the date. And I talk low to get them to listen. Save the date, September 11th. That's a Sunday for brunch with AVET Project at our Patriot Day brunch. Well, guess what? It's that time of the month, and we're so excited because I know Doc has a guest in the studio here. So Vince, cue that music. It's none other than Heal the Warrior, Heal the Country with Dr. Scott Fairchild. Welcome again, Doc.
Hey, it's great to be here. Good afternoon. And you know it's hot outside, but it's hot in here too, because we've got some hot items and some hot information for you today.
And no air conditioning.
And no air conditioning. That adds to it as well. But we're going to get to that. You know, so many times we talk about how PTSD and how the trauma of war impacts our veterans. But today, we're going to talk about how it impacts the loved ones of veterans as well. And you heard a little bit about that in our prior segment. How it had an impact, not making graduations, not making important events.
Sure.
But certainly when our veterans come back home and they've been in a combat environment and they've been traumatized, it leaves them with a stigma. It leaves them with a lot of symptoms, and those loved ones around them get hit by that exploding grenade from time to time. So we're blessed today to have with us one of our staff members, one of our new staff members who's joined us. That's Miss Juda DeCara. And she has worked with a variety of folks. She has now taken up the reins for our spouses support group. And I say spouses, but that's spouses, loved ones, mothers, sisters, brothers, anyone who's connected with a veteran, male or female. And so she's here with us today to talk a little bit too about some of the things that she does in the group and some of the things that impact our service members' families.
Fantastic.
So welcome, Judah.
Thank you so much for having me, Doc.
Good afternoon,
Good
Judah.
afternoon. How are you?
Thank you. Welcome to Glenn and Garen's Dog and Pony Show here at American Warrior Radio.
Thank you so
But
much.
this segment of the show every month, Heal the Warrior, Heal the Country, the title says a lot. Heal the Warrior, and you're going to heal the country. What's your experience now that you've started your practice with Baytree Behavioral Health? What's your experience as to how that relates and how we can get the word out that what Doc just said is true? It's wide-ranging, the effects that PTSD, TBI, MST have on society.
Well, I think a lot of it is everybody is so concerned on the individualistic level that we don't think about the repercussions of how it really does affect the country as a whole. You know, it extends just much farther past the individual to the families, to the children, to the classmates of the children. And if we're capable of helping our warrior, we're going to be able to expand and instill a lot of positive things within just not the family, but the country as a whole.
So, and you've used that analogy, a pebble in a pond, and the ripple effect, and how it goes out and affects the entire population. Now, Judah, you are an LMHC. Explain what that is. What's your history?
I am a licensed mental health counselor in the state of Florida. I graduated with a master's degree in mental health counseling from Rider University, which is located in New Jersey. So I am a transient.
I detected a little Joycey accent there.
But the thing is, no one in Jersey calls it Joycey.
Well, I'm glad you could. What brought you down here to the Space Coast?
Well, actually, my parents have retired here in 2003. My dad was a military veteran. He is a retired lieutenant colonel with the Army Reserve and National Guard.
So you're a military brat yourself.
I am, but I will say I was a lot more fortunate. My dad never was deployed during Desert Storm or Vietnam, so I'm very fortunate for that.
As
so.
is he. You know,
As is he.
But we celebrate his service for sure.
Yes. So actually, when he was working, as I was growing up, he worked for the New Jersey Department of Military and Veterans Affairs, and he actually worked a lot with quality assurance in a lot of the nursing homes for our veterans. So that kind of sparked an interest in helping veterans when I was entering my field.
Outstanding. So, Doc, I'm sure you're glad to have her on
Oh,
staff.
we are delighted because, you know, the phone rings and the door is open and there's people coming in and out and, you know, I just can't handle it all. So we're very, very fortunate to have a great staff and great to have Judah join us. And especially, I was so tickled and pleased when she said, oh, I'd love to work with the support group. And she does a great job with them, and it's growing right now. For all of our listeners out there, we want you to know that if you come in touch with a veteran in any way, shape, or form, or you have questions, we want you to come out for that support group that meets the third Saturday of every month from 10:30 to 12 at Baytree Behavioral Health, 1370 Bedford Drive. Get on down there, and one of the things we do is we offer that to our friends of veterans for no charge. Because we feel...
Wait a minute.
Free!
Secret word, free!
We offer that for no charge because we feel that they gave at the office or they gave at home. They gave enough. And so we offer
Doc,
that to
this
them.
just doesn't happen, though. You've got this wonderful practice, Bay Tree Behavioral Health, and lots of medical professionals, and you guys are doing great work. But you offer a free support group for everybody. I hope they heard that, Glenn.
Free.
For spouses and family. You know, they do give so much, and they're frequently overlooked. I know sometimes at retirement ceremonies, a spouse of a veteran will get a pin, and they get 3 minutes of recognition, but that doesn't account for the 15, 20, 25, 30 years that they, I call it sometimes, put up with that veteran, or put up with abuse, or put up with situations like that. And in fact, we brought along a little letter that one spouse wrote not to her husband, but she wrote to Mr. PTSD. Mr. Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder.
Please share. Everybody listen up.
And I want to share just a couple lines of it. It goes on and on because she had a lot to say to Mr. PTSD. But she said, before you came into my life, I heard rumors. Back then, no one really spoke about you unless it was in hushed whispers. No one knew for sure what you looked like. But I heard you did unspeakable things, that you crept into bed with husbands and seduced them away from their unsuspecting wives. I also heard that you drank a lot. I heard sometimes that you could be two places at once, physically in one place, mentally elsewhere. It was also said that you were a liar, a homewrecker, careless and violent, that sometimes you would take your mounting anger out on walls or whatever happened to be in the way. You left shattered picture frames and broken memories in your wake. There have been songs written about you, yet they don't even begin to do justice to just how evil you can be, Mr. PTSD. In fact, there's been a lot of talk of you being a murderer. I can't say that I'm surprised. I wouldn't put it past you. I believe those rumors, and I certainly never invited you into my life, but you came anyway.
And this is a letter that a spouse of a warfighter wrote to Mr. PTSD. This signature wound of the current conflicts and certainly past conflicts. It's been called everything, Glenn, from what? Combat fatigue, shell shock.
Shell shock.
Okay.
I went brain dead there.
And the diagnosis with the DSM, that's the manual that you psychologists and psychiatrists use, didn't really get firmly established until what, like 1980, something like that?
It took quite a while. In fact, in the first the first diagnostic, it was referred to as shell shock, and then it was very interesting that it appeared in one of the diagnostic manuals as PTSD, and then all of a sudden it disappeared. We must have had great therapists in those days. They healed it all,
Yeah.
and then of course in DSM-3 it came back again. Now there's new criteria, but one can even be traumatized with post-traumatic stress disorder by living with someone or witnessing post-traumatic stress events. So it's important for each and every one of you out there in the listening audience to look at those criteria, and to look at the sadness, the depression, the anger, the frustration, to look at the recurring thoughts, the obsessions, being stuck on things, the invasive thoughts, the avoiding things that remind you of it, and reliving, the re-experiencing, and the nightmares, and the intrusive thoughts at night, and the sleep disturbance, all of that. To look at all of that in your loved ones, and so many times when a veteran comes in, they may have been encouraged to come by 6 other veterans 6 times. And they'll be sitting in the chair, and I'll be talking with them, and they'll say, I don't have this stuff, do I? And it's written all over their face in their life. So yes, absolutely.
Well, the do I part of that question kind of sums it up.
It does.
But
now,
we all know guys and gals that suffer from PTSD that are in denial. They don't want the stigma attached to it. They don't want to have to go to treatment. They don't want to recognize that their life's being governed by this, as she described it, like a monster within them.
Correct.
And it isn't them. It is PTSD that's basically taking over and governing them.
It is that normal reaction to an abnormal situation. Any one of us who had gone through what they may have gone through would probably be experiencing the same thing. So they're not the faulty ones, it's the experiences. We're all products of our experiences. And that's what Juda helps individuals with. She helps families with, and couples. And I know she's working with some couples right now and trying to help them sort out their lives. And what do you see, Juda, as most of the challenges in working with couples and families?
I have a feeling that a lot of times, sometimes the spouses have a difficult time really understanding where the husband's coming from. They think it's just a normal reactive response to a situation. So they have to gain greater understanding of maybe the trauma or the changes. And
How do you do that, though, Judah? If a woman comes in with her husband, he says he's angry and he doesn't sleep right and yada yada, and she has no concept or understanding, How do you get that through to her? And I don't want to say her thick skull, but I mean, they're just not cognizant of it.
Well, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll start reframing what it is that she's hearing or what her husband is saying. And I'll say it in a way that it's the aha, like, oh, well, I didn't think of it that way. Or I didn't necessarily perceive it that way. So I also do a lot of work on perception too, because that has a lot to do with, how we react to things. So for a wife, whose husband may have some sort of negative reaction that might be a little bit overwhelming, I'll talk about her perception, and I'll talk about his perception of what had transpired, and have her gain a little insight to what the differences are, between maybe before combat and post-combat.
That's a good way to look at it. And Glenn, as throughout the years of service as a veteran service officer and continuing to do what you do, an individual comes in, maybe they're finally coaxed by a loved one or a neighbor or a friend to go and file for post-traumatic stress disorder. And Doc and Judah have kind of detailed what those signs and symptoms are. But they still get there and they still have questions, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I've had some back from World War II who've had Mr. PTSD hiding in the closet for all these years, and suddenly it's come out, and they, just in the course of conversing with them, they'll say something like, I started hitting my wife in the bed at night, and I didn't know I was doing that, and she told me, and she's not putting up with this stuff anymore. And so, it affects everybody who's ever been in the military, period. More so, I suspect, with the people who've been in a combat scenario. But I've seen it for all kinds of reasons. I will tell you, and this is a true story, I saw a Navy guy who had a Coke machine aboard the ship fall on him, and he got PTSD because the after effects. So I always kidded and said that's good. You won't walk around Coke machines anymore,
but that's how pervasive it can be.
Yeah.
It's a traumatic event, regardless of what the circumstances are,
Life-threatening event.
It continues to live on in their psyche.
Yes.
So it's not something you're going to give them a pill, even though the VA would love to do that. Just here, take this pill, everything will be fine. That doesn't work. These combat cocktails, as some of the guys are calling them now.
It's a Band-Aid, and for those of you out there who like to get on the web, if you go to a place, there's a place that shows The Hidden Enemy. It's a documentary. If you look up The Hidden Enemy documentary, it's long, it's a couple hours long, but take it in pieces. It traces the history of psychiatry in the military, and it traces the history of the medications that have been used, and it actually identifies and proposes that it's the cocktails that are actually contributing significantly to the high suicide rates. We just had the Mission 22 veterans a day taking their own lives. And so when you're you have a concoction that you have to take a handful of 10, 15 pills, it certainly does, and understanding that there are certain medications that are necessary. But I always say that it's important to stop and reevaluate what medications am I taking. I have a deal going with my primary care doctor. If he's going to put a pill in my old man's pill box, that means he's going to take 2 out. If he puts 1 in, he takes 2 out. So it's important to reassess that at a time. And the pills do tend to cover things up. If you have a sleep disturbance, if you have, let's get down to the meat of things. Let's get down to the important things and work them through, and find out what's underneath it and gain some insight. And we use other processes in our clinic, of course, EMDR, alpha stim, QEEGs, brain retraining. We do a variety of different things that help get down to it, work through it. I've often asked, can you ever be totally healed from PTSD? Over the years I've seen this, and my answer would be no, but you certainly can manage it better. You gain more tools to be able to manage it better, and to cope with it. Absolutely. And is that what you see, Jude, also in the people you're working with?
I would say that they probably have a more difficult time coping, especially with the initial reactions. I think the first step is the fact that they don't recognize it within themselves that they are acting differently or they are experiencing these things. So, and I also think that it's a lot easier to go get a pill than to actually work through and process what they had experienced.
And this goes probably for the spouses as well.
Agreed.
They've got to get, like you said, a better understanding of what the warfighter, and it could be a man or a woman,
Right.
is going through before they can attack it on their own level. And just a quick aside here, Glenn, compensation through the VA for disabilities such as PTSD is paid at varying rates depending on their foundational score as to how they're functioning, their global assessment of functioning.
Right.
Anywhere from 0% where, hey, he's service connected because he's got it, but it's not bad enough to warrant any compensation, all the way to 100%.
Correct. And shifting gears just a hair, I wanted to say it's so important for programs like the one that you're involved with, Judah, because, and probably this involves the doc too, the spouses or the loved ones, and or both, don't get any kind of help when the military guy is on active duty.
That's the note I wrote down. That's exact. Man, great minds think alike. Because the spouses should be getting compensation for crying out loud, having to deal with
They
us.
should be. And so many times their interventions, we had one young Marine who came back from Iraq and lost 17 fellow Marines there. And he was a mess, drugs, alcohol, everything else. And, he ended up finding a beautiful young lady who they later got married. And she made a difference. I mean, she made a total difference in his life. And that's so important. And, I want to, as we come to a close here, I want to share something. We had that Dear PTSD letter from the lady. And she said how it's been tearing her apart and tearing her apart. Well, it's groups like the groups that Judah do. It's the R&R retreats that make a big difference.
They sure do.
They make a big difference.
It's proven.
And they got it. The women stick together and compare notes and how do we try this? And so this time in the end of her letter, she said, in the past I may have run from you, but she said this time is different though. You had me so close to waving the white flag, Mr. PTSD, but now I'm going to protect my children. But I know once you put that pen in my hand to sign away the relationship I committed to, you'll only find another home to ruin. It is for that reason that I will not let you win. I'm not going to walk away. I'm sure you've heard the phrase, hell hath no fury, like that of a woman scorned. If you won't go quietly into the night and leave my family be, you need to know that I'll never give up. And when you come at me again, I'll be prepared. This time I have a ton of women who have my back. We will tell everyone what you do. I won't let you have him. I want him back. And I don't care if you have to rot in hell, but you will lose. I hope you're ready, Mr. PTSD. I hate you.
Wow.
And so I think
Powerful.
she says it strongly.
Very
Great.
powerful. Well, Doc, again, fantastic segment of Heal the Warrior, Heal the Country. Judah Dakar, thank you so much for joining us and doing what you do, working with the spouses. We'll continue to get the word out. Love that you're on the team. I know you're going to do great things. Glenn, we never leave the episode. I want to get a quick shout out to Market Street Memory Care also. Fantastic first segment there, ladies. Appreciate your help in helping us help the vets. We can't leave without this, Glenn.
Yeah, if you're a veteran or a friend of a veteran or a family member of a veteran and you notice that they're in crisis, dial the VA crisis line, 1-800-273-8255. Press 1.
That's important. You press 1 because otherwise you're going to get directed to a general number.
That's
What's
right.
the number again?
1-800-273-8255. Press 1 for veterans.
And
And as always, don't forget, thank a vet.